If there's one piece of English translated media that will forever live on in the hearts of the whole of the Western audience, it's probably Cowboy Bebop. However, that's not to say that, other shows have stayed on in people's memories for their own reasons. Today's example being One Piece. I put up the Japanese to show to everyone that, today's topic is the translation in One Piece. Namely, the way they name things, the way they name their characters. I'll be answering, really burning questions from when you were maybe 11 or 12. Is it Zoro or Zolo? Luffy or Rufy? Frankie or Flanky, I guess. That kind of thing. In order for this to make sense, I need to give you a crash course in Japanese pronunciation. Mainly hiragana, their primary-ish, primary writing system. So anyway, here's my super in-depth guide to Japanese phonetics and how they translate into Western languages. Let's start out with the basics. Japan, unlike English or basically every Germanic or Romantic language, i.e. the non-Asian ones, they use what's called a syllabary, or a strict list of syllables that they're allowed to use at any given point. I'm sure everyone knows this, but a syllable is just a fancy way of saying a vowel being pronounced. And a vowel, when you say a vowel, every letter before it becomes part of the syllable, basic stuff, Basically, a syllable is just a marker point either for the end of a vowel or the beginning of a consonant following a vowel. English, on the other hand, uses what's called an alphabet. This is, when syllables, they're not conjoined. In English, we have S and U. We put these letters together and, we form su. We form sa. Japanese, on the other hand, doesn't work this way. Sa is a thing that exists all on its own. It doesn't have a name like we have for letters in English. It only has a pronunciation, which is su, not sa, by the way. For the next part, it's important to remember that English and Japanese evolved detached from one another, entirely detached from one another, basically, other parts of the world. In order to grasp the concept that we're going to talk about next, you need to stop trying to think of it in terms of this is correct in English, or, this is a direct translation, one-to-one translation, it's a myth from English. You need to be willing to just accept whatever you get. It's the main pillar of language acquisition is you basically just need to think outside of yourself and think within the language you're learning. Now, it'll seem foreign at first, but that's just because it's a foreign language. It is foreign, it's in the name. Anyway, moving on. The Japanese syllabary, it's laid out like this. You have a, I, U, A, O, forming rows here, 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 here. And on the top, going right to left, because it's Asia, you have K, S, T, N, H, M, Y, Y. I did so good there for a second. You have K, S, T, N, H, M, Y, R, W, and N again. Just for now, pretend that the N isn't there. It's not important. It won't come into play here. Just the N, all intents and purposes, no N. Put this all together. You basically have every sound that's possible to make in Japanese. There are some others like kya and hya, but we're not gonna focus on those right now. We're just focusing on the basic. There's no tricks. There's no PH makes a f sound. There's no Q always has to be next to U. Any of these stupid TH makes th sound and CH makes a ch sound. There's none of that garbage. Compared to English, it's actually really simple, it's really clean, it just makes sense. Just add the letter from the columns in front of a vowel that you have. Basically, it's how you form a syllable. You take a vowel from the top. Oh god. You take a vowel from the side, a consonant from the top, put the consonant in front of the vowel, boom. You have one of the Japanese letters, I guess. However, today, the ones we mainly want to look at, the main focus, are these ones here. Da, di, do, de, and do. My Japanese pronunciation isn't the greatest, I know, but I'm sure you could tell that I didn't say ra, ri, ru, re, ro, nor did I say la, li, lu, le, so on. That's because English doesn't have, a sound that translates directly There is no da in English. There is no, denshu is the word to practice. It's not renshu, it's not lenshu. You can't, it's just, we have a representation. Plain and simple, that's all it is. We don't have a letter that represents that sound. However, the only way to circumvent this, aside from teaching every English-speaking person hiragana, which is a little bit unreasonable, is just to express them with a sound in English that's, close enough. Usually we do this when we write down words from Japanese into English, like the word for 6, roku, not roku. This is the most glaring example we have, the ra-ri-ru-re-ro, da-di-do-de-do type of stuff. But the same can also be said for other parts of the syllabary, such as hu. Not fu, it's sefuku, the word for school uniform. Not seifuku, or God forbid, seifaku. We just have a close representation of their sounds using our alphabet. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but since they hardly ever use it, they're hardly ever exposed to it, a lot of Japanese people who have learned English state that hearing the difference between R and L is one of the hardest things that they can do. It's one of the biggest hurdles to get through when they're trying to learn English. I'm sure the astute among you already know where I'm going with this, but lesson time's over. Zoro or Zolo, which is it? Who won? Funimation 4 Kids. Who won? I don't know. Both? Neither? Either? I'm not, there's no right answer, right? Technically it's Zoro, so neither one. But having English voice actors saying, let's go to the Mary, Zoro, onegaishimasu, it'd be stupid. It would be grating. No one wants to hear that. So what we ended up doing is just going with the closest sound we have, Zoro. This is where translation gets kind of weird and kind of strange. Zoro is spelled with a Japanese do, but Luffy is spelled with a do. So why isn't he Ruffy? If Zoro is spelled with the same consonant on the top, why isn't it produced with the same English letter? Well, due to him always being referred to as Luffy in the sub-dub majority of manga translations, you probably also hear Luffy with an L, not Ruffy with an R. But consider the job of the original translator, the first person who ever brought One Piece into English. It gets a lot harder now. Essentially, what you have to do is just basically trust your gut. That's all there is to it. If there's an anime out there, you can use that to hear how the actors pronounce it, and then, guess from there, but it's still a guess. But really, you just have to sound it out for yourself. You have to know the syllables, you have to sound it out for yourself, and then input in what you think as a translator fits. It's all about your intuition and what you think would flow best to an English-speaking audience. Hence why English translations of a Korean translation of a Japanese game, they usually don't work out too well. They don't have the most natural flow. Best case scenario is going from Japanese to English. Worst case scenario is going from Japanese to Swahili to Korean to German to English. That's nothing good is gonna come of that. That's bad news. Anyway, personally, I think Zoro sounds more natural, to most English speaking. As an English speaker myself, I think Zoro sounds more natural. And Luffy and Ruffy, it's more up in the air, but I do think Luffy rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But that's all due to the original translator and the bias he put in everyone who's ever read One Piece or watched One Piece. It's because of that guy. It's due to him and his intuition, his just going in and putting what he felt sounded best. There's actually a really strange bit during the Skypiea arc where Funimation's original dub changes from Zoro to Zolo. I swear, it was at the original airtime, not with, the new Blu-ray dubs or anything. The original, just TV airtime was super weird, and it was probably just due to whoever was scripting at the time. It was really strange. I don't know how I got through. Obviously, the same can be said for Frankie and Brooke. It's not Flanky, it's not, Frankie, but that's just how we hear it. Frankie is a little bit easier because it is a legitimate English name, so we kind of just knew what they were going for, but a lot of the time you have to, give it your own intent as a translator. In short, it's all about just you find the closest English representation, be that Ru, be that Lu, be that you know, and then you just move it over into English, and you have to trust your gut. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. 4Kids sounded kind of stupid. Zolo sounds weird, just like on a base instinct level. I don't know if that's due to bias from everyone hating 4Kids for some reason or another, or everyone, you know, or if it's just inherently to an English speaker, Zolo, just the way it works, the weird hardness of the consonants, the weird choppiness, the lack of flow it has. I do think there's something like intrinsically weird with Zolo that's not there with Zoro. But, you know, to each their own, there's no right or wrong answer. Anyway, this is just a short video. Hopefully it'll give you some insight into what I want this channel to become. If that wasn't clear, it's, you know, the translations of anime, Japanese, pop culture, music, whatever, and moving that into English and why certain choices were probably made. I don't really have a schedule set up yet or anything in mind like that, but I do have other ideas that I think would be very interesting, especially if you like Maid Dragon. And if you're interested in, you know, that kind of stuff, make sure, you know, you can keep up with me however you want. YouTube people know how YouTube works at this point. It's 2018, we're in the current year. You know how it works, I know how it works. I don't need to, whatever, tell you. Anyway, bye for now. I hope this was enjoyable. Please let me know what kind of stuff I, you know, could work on. I'm very open to feedback right now because, you know, obviously this is just an idea I had one day, just a starting out thing. So, thanks everyone. I have on the script here, I have bye for now, which is just the stupidest thing ever, just the worst outro, but whatever, I'll think of something eventually. Thanks for your time.